Hi, this is Lee Bellinger with another edition of the Bellinger Report. I'm publisher of Off Grid Confidential, and I'm talking to my friend Eric Kramer today, and we're gonna cover winners and losers and other political issues of importance. And Eric is going to lead the conversation.
Well, glad to be back again, Lee. Thanks for having me on. I don't know. Let's start with I like our little winner or loser section.
Oh,
You want to go with losers first or winners?
yeah, let's talk about the losers.
Why don't you throw yours out there first?
So the really big one I see is the utter and complete collapse of the woke corporate boycott against the state and people of Georgia. It has completely come unraveled on its own. So you might remember that Georgia has passed a ballot security law, and about 30 other states have got the same kind of laws. And the left has determined that this is evidence of systemic racism. And you might recall that President Biden, whoever that is, made a pronouncement about the American All Stars that going back to leaving Georgia, which they did, and they've gone to Denver. And so the American All Stars, and so a bunch of minority owned businesses lost their jobs and their positions, and it's gone to a bunch of white people in Denver. And so that's about $100 million loss to the state. They lost a Will Smith movie, a major movie was being made in the state, and they pulled out. And and so it's cost them. There's really a very good article. If you want to go into this in more detail, it's in the National Review, and the writer is Kyle Smith. The article is called "How the Boycott Georgia Movement Flopped." So the Atlanta Braves now are going to look like complete morons if they go to other states and play if that state has rules that are as strict, or if it has similar ballot security rules as Georgia. So this is really. And by the way, the movie people that pulled out is Apple Studios. So it's actually a really big loss to the state, and so many people have left. It's caused so much damage to the state's economics that Stacey Abrams is doing this big tap dance now, talking about how she had nothing to do with this boycott. And even better, the White House has skulked off, and all of the corporations, these woke corporations that were shooting their mouths off about it, have gone into a witness protection program. And the big corporate jerks that were pushing all this, they had their obligatory conference call recently, and half of them didn't show up. And what they did put out was this embarrassing, watered down, means nothing statement. So the whole thing has collapsed on them, and they look like morons. And so that's why you're not hearing about it in the news, but I did want to share it because I think it's worthy of discussion.
So,
So the winners there is truth and freedom and justice, and not so great for the left on that one.
well, I definitely like that in the winner column, but I guess I'm just curious, because last week we talked about Stacey Abrams. I told you I was going to buy you her new romance novel, and you just
Mhm.
found a way to work her back into the conversation for this week.
I couldn't help it.
I mean, and you don't even have her second copy yet. I mean, you don't even have the book, and I can't
I
imagine
know.
what it's going to be like in the future once you
Well,
read it.
she's certainly a very busy person. She's a very
Well,
busy person. So
I actually came up with a winner while we were sitting here talking. I saw earlier today, those of us in the conservative movement that know Dr. Steve Turley, he just does a fantastic job. He's probably, I don't know, he's not Rush Limbaugh, but he's getting up there as far as our movement is concerned. But he actually announced he's quitting today. But here's what
why?
he's quitting. He's, for those that don't know, he's also a college professor, an academician. That's, where the doctor came from. He's quitting that job. He's announced he's going into this full time so that he can
Good.
provide even more information and knowledge. So for those of you that maybe have never listened to him, he's a pretty fantastic dude. He got before the election last year, he became quite popular. So just want to say that I think that's a win for all of us.
That's a
If
win.
he can spend more time, if he can spend more time and produce better product than he's doing now, it's going to be a huge win for us.
Well,
Um,
there's, Rush Limbaugh, the loss of Rush Limbaugh, somebody, and probably a lot of people are going to come in and fill that void because they have to, and
yeah,
somebody's going to step up and hey, I'll root for Dr. Turley. I'm
yeah.
good with that. So,
Hey, I'll tell
um,
you the other day, Lee, I was driving somewhere and I guess it must have been that the network that was EIBN or EBIN, the
yeah,
network he was
the
with,
excellence in
but
broadcasting,
yeah,
EIB.
but actually they played like a blurb of something he said, and I really didn't realize till then how much I missed listening to him.
I
To hear
know,
his
yeah.
voice,
The same
to
thing
hear his
happened to me.
voice, I was like, wow. It made me realize how much I hadn't thought about it, but how much I did miss being able to listen to him. Uh,
He was really very good at speaking about the timeless issues that will be here 100 years from now.
oh yeah,
And I do miss it. I've heard some of those recordings too, since he passed away, and it just, and yet, and not many people can be so relevant after they die.
I know.
Um,
Yeah. So,
so that's pretty
oh,
cool. Hey, I did want to mention, there's actually some other good news to talk about here. Loser possibly is Twitter. They in early May, they had a drop of 15% in their stock, which was very unusual. And a lot of people, a lot of observers think that this blip was caused by the fact that they're not attracting, that their growth curve has flattened, meaning that their business model has been on acquiring new people in large numbers for a very, very long time. And markets noticed, and a lot of it has to do with, I think, with how they treated President Trump and treated pro-liberty Americans like second citizens. And people are saying, what are some of these big tech setbacks? And one of them seems to be, there's a bill out there by Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, Republican. It's called the 21st Century Free Speech Act, and it would abolish taxpayer extended privileges that allowed Twitter to become a uh, a monopoly, in which they have in turn used to silence the voices and the conversations of 100 billion pro-liberty Americans. And he's also got a provision. This is what got my attention: is that the Haggerty bill would extend the right of free speech to pro-liberty Americans on the internet. And the idea is much like the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Prior to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, African Americans in many parts of the country couldn't go to hotels. They couldn't go to restaurants and other public spaces because of their skin color, and they weren't allowed in. And the Civil Rights Bill required any business that's public, they cannot tell people they can't come in because of their skin color. And so the Haggerty Bill is built on the idea of the '64 Civil Rights Bill, except in this case, it applies to pro-liberty Americans because it would force the we would so that we can be so that pro-liberty voices and people can be heard once again in the public square. And we as pro-liberty Americans faced the same discrimination from the internet as the African Americans once did in restaurants and public places and bars. And now this is our civil liberties movement, that we need to be heard on the internet. And frankly, we have only our chains to lose, only our chains. We need to stand up and say, pro-liberty American voices must be heard on the internet. It is not their place. They only have their monopolies because they had these special privileges that got them there. Taxpayer provided privileges. We have only our chains to lose. So the Haggerty bill is, and there's more and more of these types of really smart ideas coming out. So um,
Nice.
It's a really big movement. It's a big movement, and I think we're going to keep seeing improvements in ideas and actions. The Haggerty Bill, remember it.
He's from where? You said Texas?
No, I'll just make sure I've got this right because I'm not that familiar with him.
Okay.
Republican of Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Okay. I
Yeah,
got the
yeah,
T
yeah.
right. Man, that's not bad. Okay.
And something else to share with you, Eric. This is going to make you nuts. So people are asking me, our COVID detention center is going to become a reality. And now, the first thing I would tell you is there's no immediate threat of COVID detention centers, but COVID detention camps are a very big idea and very much on the leftist agenda. There's actually a bill, New York State Assembly member Nick Perry. The bill is A416, and it provides for the detention of people suspected of being infected um, by the state, and also for mandatory physical examinations, which we kind of already have at the TSA checkpoints. They do like to grope people. But this would actually make it official. They would be able to grope you at will and strip search you and put you in detention. And but the Haggerty bill, I mean, this not the Haggerty bill, but Nick Perry's bill. They can hold you for 60 days, and then there might be a court review. So it's very progressive in how they're thinking here. So they can hold you for 60 days, and then an administrative court can decide if you've had it, and it gives them up to 90 days for the court to act. So it's really ideal for them to silence critics, and these bad people they're gonna have it ready. They're in a future health crisis. Expect the bad guys to be ready. I got a great quote here. This is a conservative commentator who is talking about the progressive bill, and he's just said, I knew Governor Cuomo was a bit of an authoritarian anti-Semite, but I never thought the state would go literal Nazi." So, hey, you know, um, but they got a plan for the next media-generated health scare. And it's very important to pay attention to these types of bills because this is exactly what they're thinking. And you know, so it's just that's what we're going to see next. They know that health scares work.
Yep. Oh
So
yeah, that's everything's going to become a health scare. Well, they're already talking about make it a national emergency as far as healthcare when it comes to guns. That's one of the things. They
oh
throw it for
yes,
that, then they can do what they want. It's just how they're going to approach things. It's their new magic bullet for excuse to attack things. Hey, I got a quick a loser. That we're glad to hear about today. The Republicans finally ousted Liz Cheney today from her
oh,
leadership position. You know, these people that want to go against the people, they talk about it going against Trump and how it's against Trump's party by, how can you be, so ignorant? But what they don't understand is Trump's representing the people. So it's really, what they're doing is they're just, they're going against us. And, so finally, things like this with people like her being ousted and some of the other things we hope are going to come up in the 2022 election. I mean, hopefully this is the beginning of us taking back the Republican Party.
I wanted to add something about that. So here's the thing with it. They gave her a pass on what happened, after the January 6th incident on Capitol Hill, and put her in. But the real issue is that she has continued to vilify President Trump, and continued and continued and continued it. And they really had no choice but to oust her. It
Yeah.
wasn't for what she did in the past. It's what she's been continuing to do. She continues to harp and won't let the issue go, and continues to speak as a representative of the Republican Party without the appropriate support. She simply doesn't have the support to do that. She really needs to go work for the Democrats because that would be a more appropriate home for her. She can be a conservative Democrat, and so. But she just kept talking about it and making it an issue, and the party is ready to move on. And Whether she likes it or not, President Trump is going to have a lot to say about who the next nominee is going to be, and it might even be him. But one way or the other, he's got the veto power over the party, and not unlike the African Americans have veto power over who gets the nomination in the Democratic Party, and President Trump is the gatekeeper for the Republican Party, and so he's going to have a lot more influence than people realize. So, very important to know.
Hmm. Great, great additional insight. Hey, I know you always like to, bring up cryptocurrencies and where they fit, but
Cryptocurrency,
I
yeah.
don't know if you just saw an announcement just came out an hour ago. Bitcoin's dropped close to $4,000 in the
Hmm.
last hour. It was already down a little bit today too, but
Was a
basically Elon
Musk,
Musk, yeah,
yeah.
Elon Musk came out and they're going to quit taking Bitcoin for car purchases for the Tesla. They're citing environmental concerns. I haven't read the article yet, but I mean, yeah, that's I'm there's not any more environmental concerns when he adopted it versus what's happened since he adopted it. So that's
Right.
their excuse. What he's probably not wanting to do is take the risk of, that's one of the problems you have. It sounds really great. I talk to this with my other friend all the time. Say, hey, take your Bitcoin and go buy Tesla with it. Well, for a lot of people, Bitcoin, that's great. Bitcoin's at $55,000. Now it's at 52.5. I just looked at it a few minutes ago. But so you take this $50,000 coin, but the reason it's 50,000 isn't because people paid 50,000, because people paid 2,000 or 4,000. So they got this huge capital gain, and it's real easy to say, hey, go take your Bitcoin and buy something. But the minute you cash that Bitcoin in for that, now you got a tax. You
You
got
have
a
a
20,
tax. You have a
you got
taxable event.
yeah, you got a taxable event. So, all of a sudden you're not paying 50,000 for that Tesla. You're paying
That's right.
50,000 plus another, 20% capital gain tax or whatever it
And
is you
that,
fall
by
into.
the way, the government doesn't have the ability yet to penetrate the blockchain. But one of the things they can do is they're going to be paying close attention to purchases that people make with the Bitcoin, and especially if it's structured in and out of other corporations and so on. And they're going to be watching for that
Yeah.
in their new enforcement jihad. By the way, the Biden administration is spending $80 billion on refurbing the IRS so they can go after uh, the uh, the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency phenomenon. And just remember why, because they are worried about capital flight from the dollar because they have so debased it with trillions and trillions and trillions of fake dollars. And you're already seeing AAA, the Automobile Club is saying that gasoline is now at $3 a gallon on average in the nation, already up. So and this is going to drive up every other expense.
Mhm.
And so, this is what's coming at us. And in the next edition of Off Grid Confidential, you'll be reading about the Bank of America. Every major corporation from every sector of the economy is reporting inflationary pressures in their sector. Inflation is not a fluke. It is real. It's welling up inside every major sector, from food to manufacturing. Steel was under $500 a ton, and it's now at $1,500 a ton. That's going to spread to everything in the economy, and this is coming at us like a freight train. We'll talk about it more in my next time we talk, but I wanted to just give you a heads up about that. Since you were the
Yeah.
one who originally told me about the BOA report, I just wanted you to know I did a whole when I studied what had happened, at your suggestion, I found that there was room for a complete new lead story. And I actually made it my lead story because all the direct quotes from corporatists about the impact, they of course look at inflation as an opportunity because they have economies of scale. They can pass the cost on to people. And so for them, it's a profit event. And that's how they look at it. But but they're not looking at it from the point of view of how a person on a fixed income is going to be affected by all this. They look at it from a profit point of view because they can pass it on to their consumers. They're big enough. They have this economies of scale to do that.
Yeah, I was
So,
listening to Glenn Beck today, and basically he affirmed the same thing you said. It doesn't hurt the government. They just print more money. It doesn't hurt corporations because they
nope.
pass it on, but it hurts the average person. He quoted today, and when he was doing his show this morning, he didn't quote who the experts were, but then again, he might have because I didn't listen to the whole segment. But he quoted saying that experts are predicting that within the next 2 to 3 years, your $100 is only going to be worth $52.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's
And
frightening.
now
You
this
know?
is why crypto is such a mortal threat to the government, because cryptocurrency is an appreciating asset. Private crypto is an appreciating asset. The dollar is a depreciating asset. Where are you going to put your money? And by the way, my prediction is that the government's jihad against the cryptocurrencies, which are very popular and have outstripped gold, but gold is gonna benefit because they're gonna go after the cryptocurrency when the crypto bubble breaks. Whatever that happens, in whatever form it happens, it'll be a lot like the banking sector in 2008, and they became vassals of law enforcement, the banks, and that's what they do now. So anyway, this is really important stuff. We're really seeing now, in a very short amount of time, the Harris Biden administration is really messing this up, and I think they're going to get tagged for it.
Well, speaking of that, I was glad to see last night. I was watching Tucker Carlson, and our great governor McMaster went on, and we became the fourth state. He announced. He said, told the people in South Carolina, you got till June 27th, and then you better get a job because he's refusing the federal unemployment money. We're the fourth state to do that. Mississippi, I think, announced it today. Florida had already done it, but McMaster was saying how much it's just messing up the
Oh
entire
yeah, because
economy. We have all these
the,
people that don't want to go to work, and we got,
and the states that accept the money aren't allowed to do tax cuts.
oh,
Yeah,
really? I didn't know that. Okay.
you didn't know that? They're like, if you accept the aid, you're not allowed to do tax cuts in your own state.
Wow. Didn't know
Yeah,
that. Okay.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was glad to hear McMaster did that. And one of the things I tell everybody every week that I get on is, don't give up on the system. I'm not telling you it works properly, but the
No,
part that does work is these politicians do hear, and it does register what voters tell them. I wrote my letter to McMaster yesterday, and telling him, hey, I like these things that you've done, but before I send you some money for your campaign, because he's up for election again, I want to know what you're going to do on critical race theory. Are you going to ban it in the school systems? Are you going to ban Project 1619 project? Are you going to make South Carolina a second amendment sanctuary state? And you let me know those things, and
God, I love
I'll
that.
let you know if I'm going to send you money.
Second Amendment, sanctuary state. Mm.
Yeah. So, those are some good things to talk about. But, oh, listen, I thought this would be a good time to let me ask you this. I picked up the new April edition, and you were just talking about the bubble for crypto. You've got the article on housing bubble. Do you have anything more you want to add that maybe you found in your
Well,
research that
yeah.
wasn't in the article or something like that? Or what do you
Well, the
tell us?
main thing to remember about the housing bubble, there's just if you're in the market if you're in a situation where you want to sell your house, if you've been thinking about it, now is certainly a great time to sell your house, provided that you're not going to having to buy another house, which is also going to have inflated prices. So you want to be a little careful about that. But if you have a place to go, and say you want to get rid of one of your houses, and you got two houses, and you want to move into your smaller rental property, that's fine. Um, but a lot of it has to do with the cheap money. A lot of it has to do with the fact that the rental market is messed up because landlords have not been able to kick out tenants who are behind. until recently, and so that's frozen up that market. It created a shortage, and then of course the inflation of lumber up 117%. So building houses and in that Bank of America report that Glenn Beck was talking about, William Sherman, the paint people, were talking about the enormous inflationary pressures driving up the cost of paint. So it's not just lumber; it's the paint people are making the same observations, and so really, what's striking about the whole thing is that every single sector is showing signs of inflation, which is meaning that it's not some fluke that they always try to explain. Oh well, there's a fluke here, COVID-19, and we have this pent up demand, and we have a heated up economy because everybody's going back to work, and all this other nonsense. The reality is they've pumped trillions of dollars of fake money into the banking system, and that means that they got to stop cryptocurrency. That means that they got to do everything they can to shut down anybody trying to flee the dollar and flee the U.S. system. And so they're going to get stronger and more ham-handed. 80 billion dollars to get the IRS so that they can attack Americans, so that there's absolutely no escape from their crazy closed-in system that's basically like a mall issuing mall dollars, where you can only spend it in the mall. That's kind of what they're doing. They're making it. They're making they're completing the rinky-dink nature of the U.S. dollar with what they've been doing. They're out of their minds,
Hmm.
honestly. But I think it's going to catch their. I think it's going to catch their butts. They're definitely going to get blamed for the high fuel prices that are coming our way.
Yeah. One of the articles I just saw too, Lee. I don't know if you'd happen to seen it, but I think it's a good example of the state of where we are in our country. Article came out: 124 retired U.S. military officers have sent out a dire warning. Basically, let me read a couple statements that they made. Um, they said that the under a Democratic Congress and the current administration, our country has taken a hard left turn towards socialism and a Marxist form of tyrannical government. They also said the current administration has launched a full blown assault on our constitutional rights in a dictatorial manner, bypassing the Congress with more than 50 executive orders quickly signed, many reversing the previous administration's effective policies and regulations. Um, they also noted that Biden has the most executive orders, signed since President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Moreover, population control actions such as excessive lockdowns, school and business closures, and most alarming, censorship of written and verbal expression are all direct assaults on our fundamental rights. They kind of end it. They say the survival of our nation and its cherished freedoms, liberty, and historic values are at stake. It's a pretty dire article. Um, they some of the thing the media, the Biden administration, they want to make it look like that Biden had we all know he had more votes than anybody in history. He's the most popular president ever, and we all know that's a bunch of lies. But that's the lies they want to tell us, and they want to act like somehow he has a mandate. That's why they're doing this. He's definitely got he's the hardest left president, progressive president we've seen. People are shocked. The sad part is the Democrats almost go around in the media bragging about it now. They don't even have a problem telling you that. It's kind of like, hey, you thought you were getting a moderate. You got a super progressive. But the thing always remember, there was 3 tipping states, and in those 3 tipping states, he won by less than 43,000 votes. It's the same thing when they talked about, what did we hear about how Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton? It was the same. What did we hear there? Oh, he won over the same 2 to 3 tipping states, and he won by less than 70,000 votes. It's the same. It works for them, but then when the same thing happens, it doesn't work for us, and it's ignored. But that's a pretty dire warning. What do you've got anything on that? Lee?
Absolutely. Well, that's right. So these officers, these are important letters to share with people, and I wouldn't mind if you forwarded that information to me, by the way, just because
Okay.
it's a lot of military people that like my publication. I would, let them, but
Okay.
let a thousand fires burn. The bottom line is we have to fight them at every turn. Um, the resistance is firming up in the United States to this regime that slithered its way into the heart of our constitutional republic. And they came to power in an illicit way. And, we still have the winning hand because in the end, I believe we are the majority. I think we're more focused. We have uh, the Biden people. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that, Biden's support among the left is actually pretty soft in terms of their ability to turn out and their intensity. Trump is the one that provided all the intensity for the turnout. And now they've got the problem because a lot of Biden's voters are going to be relatively content in the next election, and we are going to be very uncontent, and we're going to be very motivated to turn out and vote. And that's really what matters is about who's more motivated. And so the military guys finally starting to stand up and so we've seen corporate America get its ass kicked in Georgia. That's a good message. That's a really good message to see. Even if the story is not as widely understood, basically there's a lot of silence on it. But I did enjoy Stacey Abrams' tap dance. It was awfully artful. La la dot da dot da dot da dot, and it was fun to watch. So maybe she should do a book on tap dance because she sure had to do a hell of a tap dance down there in Georgia. And our military people, they need to step up and talk about, and they're retired and they have every right as private citizens to do that. And there should be pushback at every turn, because over time it's going to help us take back and maybe build our country back better. uh, you know, and get it, and really build it back, and could ignite a long-term freedom movement. There's a lot of good reasons, a lot of positive developments. You just have to look for them. I mean, right now we have to kind of take into account that the pro-liberty Americans took a massive body blow in 2020. um, you know, the White House got basically taken from them, and 100 million people got kicked off the internet, and a lot of bad things happened, and so now people are starting to regroup,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to be a better situation. Because we were losing under Trump anyway, given the censorship was getting worse and worse under Trump. He wasn't winning all the battles. And so, if we develop our own internet and continue to work, and more Turleys come to the fore and more people come to the fore, because we're going to have heroes that we don't even know their names yet. And I think a lot of people are going to know Dr. Turley's name in the near future, because there's so much of a need for more people to come forward, and people, we need fresh. Our movement hasn't been updated since Ronald Reagan was president, and Ronald Reagan's playbook is very good playbook, and Trump updated Peace Through Strength. Did a great job of updating Peace Through Strength, but all the social stuff, and we just didn't do a very good job of fighting political correctness until it was too late. And now they've had a complete and total victory, and we have to start taking it back. And there's a lot of evidence in the Haggerty bill, and people, realizing that these woke corporations are jerks, and it's just a matter of pulling together the right coalition. We know that 70% of Americans, sports fans, do not approve of politics in sports. We can build on all that. We can. That's the basis of a coalition,
Yeah.
a real coalition.
Well, I think that wraps up our subjects,
Yeah,
and
I think you did good.
guess we'll see you next week.
Yeah, wild man. Next week,
All
you
right.
got you got a lot going on, man. You got good subjects. we just keep at it. We keep at it and at it and at it, and I'm really pleased with you know, some of the insights that we're throwing out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those of you, enjoy the issue. It's got some really good information in it.
Outstanding. Well, Eric, until next time, I look
All
forward
right,
to
man.
it.
Thanks, Lee. See you
Bye
next
bye.
week. Take care.